The steady beep of medical equipment was the only sound in the sterile chamber. Soft purple light bathed the unconscious form of Lucas Tran, his muscular frame looking oddly vulnerable against the pristine white of the regeneration pod. Suspended in a nutrient-rich solution, he floated peacefully, unaware of the storm brewing around him, outside the chamber's reinforced walls. The Cintria medical station orbited silently in the cold vacuum of space. Once a beacon of interplanetary cooperation, the station now served as an uncomfortable neutral ground between increasingly hostile factions of the Arcadia Prime galaxy. In the monitoring room adjacent to Lucas's chamber, Vile Sorn studied his vital signs with growing concern. Her slender fingers moved across the holographic interface with practiced precision, her iridescent skin catching the light of the displays. As a Vilari physician, she had treated countless species, but humans remained a rarity, almost mythical beings from a planet long relegated to legend. Still stable? The voice came from behind her, deep and resonant. Vial didn't turn. Chancellor Ely, I didn't expect the Planetary Council to send its highest representative for a single patient. Mira Eli moved to stand beside her, her ceremonial robes rustling softly. The human woman's dark eyes studied the readouts with practiced political neutrality. This is no ordinary patient. Dr. Sorn, this man may well determine the fate of an entire sector. Vial's bioluminescent markings pulsed with anxiety. He's been comatose for weeks. Neural activity suggests he's trapped in some kind of recursive dream state, likely traumatic. Waking him prematurely could cause irreparable psychological damage. The Chancellor's expression hardened. We don't have a choice. The Zerk ultimatum expires in 12 hours. If Earth doesn't present a champion, they'll claim Cintria's orbit by right of conquest. And you chose a comatose soldier? Vial couldn't keep the incredulity from her voice. He chose himself, Ely corrected. When the Zerk raiding party attacked his reconnaissance vessel, he single-handedly disabled their warship before losing consciousness. The Zerk commander was impressed. He specifically requested this human for the ritual combat. Vial's markings flashed with sudden understanding. They want vengeance wrapped in tradition. They want a spectacle that legitimizes their territorial claim. Ely said, Either way, we need him conscious and functional. She tapped a command into her wrist device. I've transferred full authorization to your medical protocols. Do whatever is necessary. Dr. Sorn. As the Chancellor departed, Vial turned back to the monitoring station, her hearts heavy with ethical conflict. In the chamber beyond the glass, Lucas Tran continued his dreamless sleep, oblivious to the fact that he had become the focal point of an interstellar crisis. In the darkness of his mind, Lucas wandered through fragments of memory. The attack on his ship, the desperate fight in the cramped corridors, the strange, chitinous faces of his attackers, mandibles clicking in what might have been surprise as he refused to die easily. Then darkness, punctuated by flashes of pain and voices he couldn't understand. And beneath it all, anger. A constant simmering rage that had been his companion since childhood. The anger that had driven him to join Earth's elite forces, to push his body beyond normal human limits, to volunteer for the deep space reconnaissance mission that had brought him here. Wherever here was, the first sign that something was changing came as a distant sensation of cold, then pressure against his skin. The feeling of liquid draining away, replaced by air that felt too thin, too sterile. The steady beep of machinery growing louder, more insistent. Pain followed, not the sharp agony of fresh wounds, but the deep ache of long unused muscles and half-healed injuries. With the pain came clarity, and with clarity, memory. The ambush, the fighting, The moment when he'd realized he couldn't win but refused to surrender, Lucas Tron opened his eyes. The chamber around him was awash in purple light. Through the transparent wall before him, he could see a slender figure working at a control panel. Not human, the proportions were wrong, and the skin seemed to glow from within with shifting patterns of light. Instinct took over. With a surge of adrenaline, Lucas tore away the monitoring sensors attached to his body. Alarms immediately blared through the chamber. The figure beyond the glass looked up sharply, eyes widening in what might have been surprise or alarm. Lucas assessed his situation with military precision. Medical chamber. Unknown technology. Possible captivity. No immediate weapons visible. The door to his right looked like the only exit. He was moving before conscious thought could catch up, muscles protesting as he lunged for the door panel. It slid open with unexpected ease, and he stumbled into a corridor, naked and disoriented but driven by the primal need to escape. "Wait!" The voice came from behind him, feminine but with an odd resonance that confirmed his captor wasn't human. "You're not fully healed." Lucas ignored the warning, pushing his body forward. The corridor ahead branched in 3 directions. Security would be coming soon. He needed to find an escape pod, a communication station, anything that would help him understand where he was and how to get back to Earth Command. He chose the left passage at random, bare feet slapping against the cold floor. The Shippor station was unlike any human design he'd seen. The architecture curved organically, the walls seeming almost alive with embedded technology that pulsed with the same purple light as his chamber. The passage opened into a larger room filled with holographic displays. Standing in the center was a towering figure that stopped Lucas cold. Over 7 feet tall, with dark chitinous armor covering a powerfully built frame. The creature turned slowly to face him. Its face was a nightmare of mandibles and compound eyes that gleamed with cold intelligence. Lucas recognized the species immediately from his final battle before unconsciousness claimed him. "Zerk. The human awakens," the creature said, its voice like gravel being crushed. Earlier than expected, behind Lucas, he heard running footsteps. The alien physician had caught up. "Commander Taruk, please," she said, breathless. "He's disoriented and unstable. He shouldn't be confronted yet." The Zerk Taruk made a clicking sound that might have been amusement. "On the contrary, Dr. Sorn, the human and I have much to discuss before tomorrow's combat." His compound eyes fixed on Lucas. Unless he wishes to forfeit now and doom his species to irrelevance in this sector, Lucas's mind raced to process the words. Combat, tomorrow, forfeit, species. The implications assembled themselves into a terrible picture. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice rough from disuse. Taruk's mandibles clicked. "I have given your forgotten world an opportunity for recognition, the right to be remembered." He took a step closer, looming over Lucas. "You should thank me, human. When I brought news of your existence back to the High Command, they wished to simply obliterate your outpost ships. I convinced them that the old ways would better serve our purpose. The ritual combat," the physician Dr. Sorn explained quietly. "The Zerk Confederation has invoked ancient law to claim Sintria's orbit. They've challenged Earth to single combat through a chosen champion. Me," Lucas said, the pieces falling into place. "You," Taruk confirmed. "The human who destroyed half my boarding party and disabled my ship's primary systems before succumbing. A worthy opponent, I thought." His compound eyes gleamed. "Though looking at you now, I wonder if I overestimated your species." Rage flared through Lucas, hot and familiar. His hands clenched into fists. "Give me a weapon, and I'll remind you why you should fear humans." Lucas, please, Dr. Sorn intervened, moving between them. You've been in medical stasis for weeks. Your body needs time to readjust. She turned to Taruk. Commander, as Chief Medical Officer, I must insist the patient be returned to care immediately. For a tense moment, the Zerk commander seemed ready to refuse. Then he stepped back with a gesture that might have been acquiescence. 24 hours, Doctor. Then he faces me in the arena, ready or not. He fixed his alien gaze on Lucas once more. Rest well, human. Tomorrow, you fight for more than your life. As Taruk departed, Lucas felt the adrenaline leaving his system, replaced by a bone-deep weariness. His knees buckled, and he would have collapsed if Dr. Sorn hadn't caught him with surprising strength. Stubborn and foolish, she muttered, supporting his weight as she guided him back toward the medical chamber. Like all legends, I suppose. Not a legend, Lucas managed through gritted teeth. Just a soldier who wants to go home. Her luminescent patterns pulsed in what might have been sympathy. I know, she said softly. But first we need to make sure you survive tomorrow. Back in the medical chamber, now reconfigured as a recovery room. Lucas sat on the edge of the bed while Dr. Sorn examined his vital signs. The hospital gown she'd provided offered little warmth against the station's cool air, but at least it restored some dignity. Your muscle tone has been maintained through electrostimulation, she explained, studying a holographic readout hovering above her wrist. But your nervous system needs time to reintegrate fully. I can accelerate the process with targeted nanotherapy, but you'll experience discomfort. Do it, Lucas said flatly. I need to be combat ready. Vial's bioluminescent patterns dimmed slightly. You should know that refusing the combat is an option. The Planetary Council would evacuate you to a secure location. And Earth? She hesitated. The Zerk would claim victory by forfeit. Their fleet would establish permanent control over Cintria's orbit, but your life would be spared. Lucas laughed without humor. So I either die fighting or live knowing I abandoned my duty. He shook his head. Not much of a choice. It is still a choice, Vial insisted. One you deserve to make with full information. She hesitated, then activated a larger holographic display in the center of the room. This is what you're facing. The image showed a combat arena circular, perhaps 100 meters across with high walls surrounding it. In the center stood Taruk, but not as Lucas had seen him minutes ago. The Zerk commander was clad in ceremonial battle armor that enhanced his already imposing physique, making him appear more machine than biological entity. The ritual combat is conducted without projectile weapons, Vial explained. Only melee arms and natural defenses are permitted. For the Zerk, this is hardly a limitation. The hologram zoomed in on Taruk's arms, where the chitinous armor extended into wicked blade-like protrusions. Their exoskeletons can be modified for combat, hardened to resist impacts, sharpened to slice through most materials. And they possess regenerative capabilities that humans do not. Sounds like the deck is stacked, Lucas observed grimly. It usually is, Vial agreed. The Zerk rarely issue challenges they aren't certain they'll win. It's why the Planetary Council was so surprised when they invoked the ancient law for Cintria. Lucas studied the holographic arena more carefully. What's at stake exactly? Vial's markings pulsed rapidly. Officially, just orbital rights to Cintria, but politically... She sighed. Earth has been a peripheral power in this sector for generations. Most species believe humans have retreated into isolation, perhaps even gone extinct. By challenging Earth so publicly, the Zerk force your species back into galactic politics, but from a position of weakness. Or they kill Earth's champion and prove we're not worth considering at all. Lucas concluded, Precisely. Vial deactivated the hologram. Now, will you allow me to begin the nanotherapy? Lucas nodded, his mind already turning to strategy. He'd fought Zerk before close quarters, desperate circumstances. He'd survived then. Perhaps he could again. The treatment was as uncomfortable as Vial had warned. Waves of heat and cold washed through Lucas's body as the nanomachines accelerated his recovery, repairing lingering damage and optimizing neural pathways. Through it all, Vial monitored him closely, adjusting the protocols as needed. You didn't tell me your full name, Lucas said during a brief respite, partly to distract himself from the discomfort. Vial Sorn, she replied, not looking up from her work. Senior Xenophysician, Planetary Council Medical Corps. And your Ate? Velari, she supplied, one from the Meridian Cluster. She glanced at him. You've never encountered my kind before? Lucas shook his head. Earth doesn't get many visitors these days, and I've spent most of my career in deep space reconnaissance. We observe. We don't engage. Until the Zerk engaged with you, Vial noted. They attacked without warning, Lucas said, memories flooding back. Disabled our engines, boarded with a strike team. My crew. He frowned. What happened to my crew? Vial's luminescence dimmed noticeably. I'm sorry. You were the only survivor recovered from the wreckage. The Zerk claimed it was a legitimate interception of an unauthorized vessel in contested space. Rage surged through Lucas again, hot and clarifying. They murdered my people and called it interception? His hands clenched into fists. And now they want ritual combat? Fine. I'll give them a fight they won't forget. Anger won't help you survive tomorrow, Vial cautioned. It's kept me alive this long, Lucas countered. Anger is clarity, focus, purpose. Vial studied him with an expression he couldn't read. The Zerk believe the same. Perhaps that's why Taruk chose you. Before Lucas could respond, the door to the medical chamber slid open. Chancellor Mira Ely entered, flanked by 2 security officers in Planetary Council uniforms. Dr. Sorn, she acknowledged with a nod. I need a moment with our champion. Vial's markings pulsed with what Lucas was beginning to recognize as annoyance. Chancellor, we're in the middle of critical treatment, which can resume shortly. Ely interrupted. This won't take long. With obvious reluctance, Vial stepped away from Lucas's bedside. 10 minutes, she conceded. Any longer will compromise the nanotherapy sequencing. She exited the chamber, the door sliding closed behind her. Chancellor Ely approached Lucas, her expression carefully neutral. How much has Dr. Sorn told you about your situation? Enough, Lucas replied. I'm Earth's unwilling champion in a fight that decides whether we matter in this sector or not. Ely nodded. Succinct, if somewhat simplified. She dismissed her security escorts with a gesture, waiting until they had left the room before continuing. What you need to understand is that this combat is merely a pretext. The Zerk don't care about Cintria's orbit. They want a foothold in this sector for military expansion. If they defeat Earth's champion, they establish precedent for challenging other minor powers. And the Council can't intervene because the ritual combat predates the Planetary Council itself, Ely explained. It's enshrined in the founding accords as a legitimate means of resolving territorial disputes between sovereign powers. Her expression hardened. The Zerk are exploiting a legal technicality to advance their imperial ambitions. So I'm fighting for more than just Earth's reputation. Lucas concluded, You're fighting to prevent the destabilization of an entire sector. Ely confirmed. If the Zerk establish a military presence around Cintria, It will trigger an arms race that could lead to open warfare. Lucas laughed bitterly. No pressure. I'm not here to add to your burden, Ely said. I'm here to offer resources. The Council officially maintains neutrality, but unofficially. She produced a small metallic disc from her robes. This contains detailed biometric data on Commander Tiruk, including combat recordings from previous duels. It might give you an edge. Lucas accepted the disc, studying it curiously. Won't the Zerk cry foul if they discover this? Only if they discover it, Ely replied with the faintest hint of a smile. The disc will dissolve after a single use. View it, memorize what you can, and let it disintegrate. She turned to leave but paused at the door. One more thing, Mr. Tran. Regardless of tomorrow's outcome, Earth will remember your service. After she had gone, Lucas stared at the disc in his hand, weighing consequences and possibilities. When Vial returned moments later, he had already made his decision. I need something to read this, he said, holding up the disc. Vial's markings pulsed rapidly when she saw the object. Chancellor Ely's idea of assistance, I presume. She took the disc with evident reluctance. This violates at least 3 articles of the combat code. Will you help me or not? She hesitated, then sighed. Resuming your nanotherapy takes priority. We can review this data simultaneously. She inserted the disc into her medical console, then resumed the treatment protocols. The therapy will be more intense this time. Try to focus through the discomfort. As the nanomachines resumed their work, sending waves of sensation through Lucas's body, the holographic display activated. This time, it showed combat footage Truk facing various opponents in ritual duels. The Zerk commander moved with surprising speed for his size, using his natural weapons with devastating efficiency. 7 previous challenges, Vial narrated as the footage played. 7 victories, 3 opponents survived but were permanently disabled. Lucas forced himself to concentrate through the pain of the therapy, analyzing Tiruk's fighting style. The Zerk relied heavily on his superior reach and natural armor, using powerful sweeping attacks to keep opponents at a distance. When they closed in, he employed crushing grapples that exploited his immense strength. He favors his right side, Lucas noted, wincing as a particularly intense wave of nanotherapy washed through him. Turns that way when pressed, and there's a gap in his armor at the junction between thorax and abdomen. Vial looked impressed. Few would notice such details while undergoing level 4 nanotherapy. Pain focuses the mind, Lucas replied through gritted teeth. Any weaknesses in Zerk physiology I should know about? The disc continued to display information as Vial spoke. Their exoskeletons are formidable but require significant energy to maintain during combat. A prolonged fight favors the opponent with greater endurance. Additionally, their compound eyes provide excellent peripheral vision but create a small blind spot directly behind the cranial ridge. The hologram shifted to display detailed anatomical schematics of Zerk physiology. Lucas committed the crucial points to memory joint articulations, nervous system clusters, respiratory openings. What weapons will I have? He asked. You're permitted a single melee weapon of your choosing, provided it contains no energy projection capabilities or explosive components. Vial gestured, and the hologram changed to display various options. The Council Armory has standard-issue weapons for most species. Lucas studied the offerings with a critical eye. Most were designed for alien physiologies and would be awkward in human hands. Some were too heavy, others too light for effective strikes against Zerk armor. Nothing suited for a human specifically. As the Chancellor mentioned, humans have been absent from galactic affairs for some time. Vial reminded him. But perhaps... She adjusted the display. This is a ceremonial sword from the Terran exhibit in the Arcadian Historical Museum. It's classified as a katana, I believe. Lucas examined the curved blade with interest. Close enough. I've trained with similar weapons. It wasn't ideal, but it was familiar, an extension of human martial tradition rather than alien design. This will work. As the data disk completed its information transfer, it began to dissolve as the Chancellor had promised, breaking down into harmless particles. The hologram flickered and disappeared. The nanotherapy is complete, Vial announced, studying her readouts. Your nervous system function has been restored to pre-coma levels, and most of your injuries are fully healed. She frowned slightly. However, I strongly recommend at least 8 hours of natural sleep before the combat. Your mind needs time to integrate these changes. Lucas nodded, suddenly aware of a profound exhaustion beneath the lingering discomfort. Wake me with enough time to prepare. Of course. Vial dimmed the lights in the chamber. Rest now. Tomorrow will come soon enough. As Lucas drifted towards sleep, his thoughts turned to Earth, the home he'd left behind years ago. A planet of contradictions, beautiful and brutal, peaceful and war-torn. A world that had shaped him through hardship and loss, forging his anger into a weapon. A world that might now depend on that weapon for its standing among the stars. Tomorrow, he would fight. Not just for himself, not just for Earth, but for a sector balanced on the edge of conflict. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it kindled a familiar fire in his chest, the clarity of purpose that came with justified rage. His last conscious thought before sleep claimed him was simple. Let them see what happens when they wake an angry human. The dream came without warning, vivid and disorienting. Lucas found himself standing in a vast purple landscape, the ground beneath his feet spongy and warm like living tissue. Above, 3 moons hung in an alien sky, casting overlapping shadows across the strange terrain. You carry it within you, a voice said from behind him. The connection, the potential. Lucas turned to find Vial Sorn standing there, but changed her luminescent patterns, forming complex symbols across her skin, her eyes glowing with inner light. What connection? He asked, his voice echoing strangely. The one they fear, Dream Veil replied. The reason Taruk chose you specifically, not just your fighting prowess, but what you represent. She reached out, touching his chest with a slender finger. Where she touched, his skin began to glow with the same purple light as her markings. The possibility of union. Before Lucas could ask what she meant, the landscape shifted. The purple ground beneath him opened like a mouth, and he was falling, tumbling through darkness toward a distant point of light. He awoke with a gasp, disoriented and covered in cold sweat. Nightmare? Vial's voice came from nearby. She sat in a chair beside his bed, monitoring equipment casting her face in blue light. Strange dream, Lucas corrected, sitting up. His body felt remarkably good, the aches and weakness from yesterday gone, replaced by a sense of coiled energy. What time is it? Local station time, 0500 hours. Combat is scheduled for 800. Vial rose, checking his vital signs on a holographic display. How do you feel? Ready, Lucas replied, surprised to find it was true. He stood, testing his balance and finding it perfect. The nanotherapy worked well. Better than expected, Vial agreed, studying the readouts with professional satisfaction. Your recovery rate exceeds standard human parameters by approximately 30%. Something about her tone caught Lucas's attention. You sound surprised. Vial's markings pulsed briefly. There are anomalies in your cellular structure. Nothing concerning, she added quickly, but unusual for a human. heightened neuroplasticity, accelerated mitochondrial function. She closed the holographic display. It may simply be individual variation or adaptive response to your specialized training. Lucas thought of the dream, the purple glow spreading from her touch, the words about connection and potential. But dreams were just dreams, reflections of stress and subconscious fears. He dismissed the thought. "I need to prepare," he said. "Is there somewhere I can warm up, get familiar with the weapon?" A training room has been prepared adjacent to the arena. Vile gestured toward a fresh set of clothes laid out nearby. Simple black garments that appeared designed for maximum mobility. "These should fit. I'll escort you when you're ready." Lucas nodded, appreciating the practical efficiency. "And the katana?" "Waiting for you in the training room. The Zerk have inspected and approved it per combat regulations," while Vile stepped outside to give him privacy. Lucas changed quickly. The garments fit perfectly, the fabric lightweight but surprisingly durable. As he dressed, he took stock of his mental state. The anger that had flared yesterday remained, but it had transformed no longer a hot, reactive emotion but a cold, focused determination. He would need that focus to survive. When he emerged, Vile was waiting with 2 Planetary Council security officers. Their expressions were carefully neutral, but Lucas could read the tension in their posture. They expected to be escorting a dead man walking. "This way," Vile said, leading the group through the station's curving corridors. As they walked, Lucas observed his surroundings more carefully than he had during his confused escape attempt. The Centria Medical Station was clearly a sophisticated facility, its architecture blending various alien design philosophies into a harmonious whole. Occasional windows revealed the gas giant Centria itself, a massive swirl of amber and gold clouds with delicate ring systems extending outward like a celestial crown. "Beautiful planet," Lucas remarked. "Rich in rare atmospheric compounds," Vile replied. "Which is why control of its orbit is so strategically valuable. The harvesting rights alone are worth billions in galactic currency." They arrived at a large circular chamber with padded floors and walls. In the center, displayed on a simple stand, was the katana Lucas had selected. Its curve gleamed under the lights, the blade looking both ancient and timeless. "You have 2 hours, Vile informed him. "I'll return to escort you to the arena." She hesitated, then added, "The combat will be broadcast throughout the sector. Billions will be watching." "No pressure," Lucas muttered, echoing his words to Chancellor Ely. As Vile and the security detail withdrew, Lucas approached the weapon. He lifted it carefully, testing its weight and balance. It was heavier than it looked, forged from actual metal rather than the lightweight alloys common to modern weapons. Old-fashioned, but solid. Real. He began with basic movements, reacquainting his body with the forms and stances of sword combat. His muscles remembered the training, responding with fluid precision that surprised even him. The nanotherapy had done more than heal his injuries. It had optimized his neural pathways, enhancing the connection between mind and body. As he moved through increasingly complex sequences, Lucas found himself entering a state of focused calm. The chamber around him faded from awareness, replaced by pure kinesthetic sensation. The weight of the blade, the shift of balance, the controlled power of each movement. Time passed without notice until a voice broke his concentration. Impressive technique for a species supposedly in decline. Lucas turned to find Taruk standing in the doorway, his massive frame nearly filling the entrance. The Zerk commander was dressed in a simple robe rather than combat armor, but he remained an intimidating presence. "You come to study your opponent?" Lucas asked, lowering the katana but maintaining his grip. "Come to honor tradition," Taruk corrected. The code of combat requires that adversaries acknowledge each other before battle. He inclined his head slightly. I acknowledge you, Lucas Tran of Earth, as a warrior worthy of the challenge. The formality surprised Lucas. He had expected mockery or intimidation, not ritual respect. After a moment's hesitation, he returned the gesture. I acknowledge you, Commander Taruk of the Zerk, as a warrior worthy of the challenge. Taruk's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval. You learn quickly, Mom. Good. It would be disappointing if this combat ended too swiftly. Planning to draw it out for the audience? Lucas asked, unable to keep a hint of bitterness from his voice. Planning to honor a worthy opponent with my full effort. Taruk replied. His compound eyes gleamed. The Zerk do not toy with our adversaries. Human, we respect strength, even perhaps especially in defeat. I don't intend to be defeated. Taruk made that clicking sound again. Few do, yet it comes to most. Eventually. He studied Lucas with an intensity that seemed to penetrate beyond the physical. There is something about you that troubles the Vailari physician. Did you know that? Her biopatterns fluctuate whenever she speaks of you. Most curious. The comment stirred echoes of Lucas's strange dream, but he kept his expression neutral. Dr. Sorn has been professional and competent in her care. Indeed, almost protective. Taruk stepped back toward the door. Until the arena, human, after the Zerk commander departed. Lucas resumed his practice, but with less concentration than before. Taruk's words about Vael nagged at him, connecting with fragments of his dream and the physician's comments about anomalies in his cellular structure. He was still pondering these connections when Vael herself returned, exactly 2 hours after leaving him. She was accompanied not by security officers this time, but by Chancellor Ely and a small delegation of Planetary Council officials. It's time, Vael said simply. The walk to the arena passed in silence. The station corridors now lined with observers from various species. They watched Lucas with expressions ranging from curiosity to pity to disdain. News of the combat had clearly spread throughout the station. The arena itself was as Lucas had seen in the hologram, a circular space perhaps 100 meters across, surrounded by high walls. Above these walls, transparent barriers separated viewing areas for different delegations. The Zerk occupied an entire section, their chitinous forms a dark mass against the lighter surroundings. Opposite them sat the Planetary Council representatives, their diverse anatomies forming a colorful contrast. At the highest point, a small booth housed what appeared to be broadcasting equipment, the means by which this spectacle would be transmitted across the sector. And spectacle it was. As Lucas entered through a broad archway, a low hum of conversation died away, replaced by expectant silence. He walked to the center of the arena, katana in hand, feeling the weight of countless alien gazes upon him. From the opposite side, Taruk emerged. The Zerk commander had exchanged his simple robe for full combat regalia, segmented armor that enhanced his already imposing physique. The chitinous extensions of his forearms now clearly modified into blade-like weapons. He moved with predatory grace despite his size, each step deliberate and controlled. They met in the center, standing 10 paces apart. Between them, a holographic display materialized, a floating sphere of light that would signal the beginning of combat. A voice echoed through the arena, speaking in a language Lucas didn't recognize but somehow understood, perhaps through some translation technology embedded in the station systems. The ritual combat for orbital rights to Sintria will now commence. Commander Taruk represents the Zerk Confederation. Lucas Tran represents Earth. Combat continues until submission, incapacitation, or death. Interference from outside the arena will result in immediate forfeit. The holographic sphere began to pulse, counting down. "You still have the option to submit," Taruk said quietly, his voice carrying only to Lucas's ears. "It would be remembered as an act of wisdom rather than cowardice." "Not a chance," Lucas replied, raising the katana to ready position. The sphere flashed brightly, then vanished. Combat had begun. Taruk moved with explosive speed, covering the distance between them in a single bound. His right arm swept forward in a devastating arc, the blade-like extension aimed at Lucas's throat. Only the countless hours of combat training saved Lucas in that first exchange. He pivoted backward, letting the alien blade pass within centimeters of his neck, then countered with a swift cut that glanced off Taruk's armored forearm. The impact sent vibrations up Lucas's arms. The Zerk's natural armor was as hard as steel, making direct attacks ineffective. He would need to target the joints and gaps. Just as the combat data had shown, they circled each other, Taruk testing Lucas's defenses with quick strikes, Lucas responding with cautious counterattacks. The audience was forgotten, the political implications set aside. There was only the moment, the movement, the dangerous dance of combat. Taruk launched another flurry of attacks, his blade arms slashing from multiple angles. Lucas parried and dodged, feeling the air displacement as the deadly appendages missed by millimeters. He countered when possible, aiming for the gaps in Taruk's armor, but the Zerk was skilled at protecting his vulnerable points. Minutes stretched into a grueling exchange of attacks and counterattacks. Lucas could feel fatigue beginning to build in his muscles, his reactions slowing fractionally. Taruk showed no such signs of tiring, his movements as precise and powerful as when they began. A momentary lapse in concentration cost Lucas dearly. As he sidestepped a sweeping attack, his foot slipped slightly on the arena floor. Taruk seized the opportunity, his left arm shooting forward in a straight thrust that Lucas couldn't fully evade. Pain lanced through Lucas's side as the chitinous blade sliced along his ribs, drawing blood. The wound wasn't deep, but it burned like fire, suggesting the presence of some natural toxin in the Zerk's weaponry. Taruk pressed his advantage, forcing Lucas to retreat in a defensive pattern. The crowd's murmur grew louder, sensing the momentum shift. "First blood to the Zerk," the announcer's voice intoned. "The human champion falters." The words sparked something in Lucas, not just anger, but a deeper, more primal emotion. He had come too far, survived too much to be dismissed so easily. The cold focus that had guided him thus far began to heat, transforming into the familiar fire of rage, but a rage directed, controlled, purposeful. As Taruk launched another attack, Lucas met it head-on. Rather than evading, he stepped into the Zerk's range, using the katana to deflect rather than block the incoming strike. The maneuver brought him inside Taruk's guard, close enough to see the surprise in those alien compound eyes. Lucas slashed upward, aiming for the junction between thorax and abdomen, the vulnerable point he had identified in the combat data. The katana's edge found its target, slicing through the softer connecting tissue. Green ichor sprayed from the wound as Taruk recoiled with a chittering cry of pain. "The human counters," the announcer exclaimed, surprise evident even through the translation. "A precision strike to a vulnerable point." Taruk recovered quickly, his wound already beginning to seal thanks to the Zerk's regenerative capabilities. But the exchange had changed the dynamic of the combat. Lucas had proven he could hurt the seemingly invulnerable champion. They re-engaged with renewed intensity. Lucas now fighting offensively rather than defensively. He had identified Taruk's pattern, the slight telegraph before major attacks, the tendency to overextend when pressed on his left side. Each observation became an opportunity, each exchange a chance to probe for weaknesses. The combat continued, minutes stretching into what felt like hours. Both combatants now bore wounds, Lucas bleeding from cuts on his side, arm, and a shallow slash across his cheek. Taruk leaking green ichor from several joints where the katana had found gaps in his armor. The audience had fallen silent, captivated by the unexpected battle of equals. This was not the quick execution they had anticipated, but a genuine contest of skill and will. Taruk's attacks grew more aggressive, perhaps sensing that time favored his regenerative abilities over Lucas's endurance. He launched a series of powerful strikes, each designed to end the combat decisively. Lucas weathered the assault, giving ground when necessary, counterattacking when possible. The burning pain from his wounds fueled his focus rather than diminishing it. Pain was clarity. Pain was purpose. Pain kept him alive when others would have fallen. An overhead strike from Taruk forced Lucas to block directly, the impact nearly driving him to his knees. The katana's blade held, but Lucas could feel the metal straining against the immense force. He couldn't match the Zerk's raw strength. He needed to end this soon, before exhaustion claimed him. As they separated for another exchange, Lucas noticed movement at the edge of the arena. Vile Sorn stood near the entrance, her luminescent patterns pulsing rapidly in what appeared to be agitation or concern. Their eyes met briefly across the distance, and in that moment, Lucas felt something, a resonance, a connection, an echo of his strange dream. The distraction nearly cost him everything. Taruk launched a devastating combination attack, both blade arms striking from opposite directions in a move designed to be unblockable. Lucas reacted on instinct, dropping low and rolling beneath the deadly arcs. He came up behind Taruk, in the blind spot directly behind the cranial ridge that Vielle had identified in the anatomical data. Without hesitation, Lucas struck at the base of the Zerk's neck, not with the blade but with the hilt of the katana, targeting a nerve cluster shown in the schematics. Taruk staggered, momentarily paralyzed by the precise impact. Lucas pressed his advantage, delivering a series of rapid strikes to vulnerable joints, knee, elbow, the connection between thoracic segments. Each hit was calculated not to kill, but to disable, to render combat impossible without permanent harm. Taruk fell to one knee, his right arm hanging useless at his side, green ichor flowing from multiple wounds. The arena had fallen completely silent, the spectators stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Lucas stood over his opponent, katana raised for a final strike. In that moment, all the political implications, all the consequences for Earth and the sector crystallized into a single choice: mercy or execution. Finish it, Taruk chittered, his alien features unreadable. Claim your victory, human. Lucas hesitated. The rage that had sustained him throughout the combat still burned, demanding satisfaction, completion. But beneath it stirred something else, a recognition of the warrior before him, of the honor in their contest. Before he could decide, a commotion erupted in the viewing area. Alarms blared throughout the station, and the holographic displays above the arena flickered with warning symbols. "A security breach in Sector 7, a voice announced over the station's communication system. "All personnel to emergency stations." Confusion spread through the arena. In the Zerk delegation, several warriors rose to their feet, mandibles clicking in agitation. Chancellor Ely was speaking urgently into a communication device, her expression grave. Taruk's compound eyes fixed on Lucas. "A convenient interruption," he said, his voice weak but edged with suspicion. "Did your people arrange this distraction to deny me an honorable death?" "This isn't my doing," Lucas replied, keeping the katana ready but lowering it slightly. "What's happening?" The answer came in the form of an explosion that rocked the far side of the arena. A section of the wall collapsed inward, and through the breach poured armed figures in Zerk combat armor, but not the ceremonial design of Taruk's forces. These were military grade, equipped with energy weapons that should have been prohibited on the medical station. Vraxel forces, Taruk hissed, struggling to rise. The radical faction, they reject the old ways, the combat code. The intruders opened fire on the arena floor, energy bolts scorching the ground near Lucas and Taruk. The audience erupted in panic, species of all kinds rushing toward the exits as security forces mobilized to counter the attack. They mean to ensure Zerk victory by any means. Taruk said, managing to stand despite his injuries. The combat's outcome is irrelevant to them, only Cintria's resources matter. Lucas made a split-second decision. He stepped to Taruk's side, supporting the wounded commander. We need cover. Can you move? Taruk's mandibles clicked in what might have been surprise. You would aid your opponent? The combat's interrupted, Lucas replied, guiding them toward a defensive position behind a structural column. Right now, we both need to survive whatever this is. More explosions rocked the station as they took cover. Through the chaos, Lucas spotted Vial moving toward them, ducking energy bolts as she navigated the increasingly dangerous arena floor. The station's defensive systems have been compromised, she reported breathlessly as she reached their position. The Vraxel faction planted infiltrators weeks ago, waiting for the combat to provide distraction. Their timing suggests they feared my defeat. Taruk observed, his analytical mind still sharp despite his wounds. They could not risk Earth gaining legitimacy through victory. Vial's luminescent patterns pulsed rapidly. It's worse than that. They've initiated a cascade failure in the station's power core. If it reaches critical, the entire station will be destroyed, Lucas finished grimly. Along with everyone on it, including all witnesses to their violation of the combat code, Taruk added. Leaving only their narrative of events for the sector, another volley of energy weapons struck near their position, sending fragments of debris flying. Lucas shielded Vial instinctively, feeling sharp pain as a shard sliced across his already wounded arm. We need to reach the control center, Vial urged. The cascade can still be reversed, but the primary access is blocked by Vraxel forces. There's a maintenance access through the medical wing, Taruk suggested, his breathing labored. Restricted knowledge, but as station commander, I was briefed on all emergency protocols. Lucas nodded, making a quick decision. Lead the way. I'll cover our retreat. As they prepared to move, another explosion tore through the arena floor, closer this time. The concussive force threw Lucas forward, separating him from Vial and Taruk. As he struggled to his feet, disoriented, he saw a squad of Vraxel warriors approaching through the smoke, weapons raised. Time seemed to slow. The rage that had fueled Lucas throughout the combat surged again, but differently. Not cold and focused, but hot and expanding, filling every cell of his body with energy that demanded release. The pain of his wounds intensified, then transformed into something else, a burning sensation that spread from his core outward, suffusing his vision with a purple haze reminiscent of his strange dream. The connection awakens, he heard Vial whisper, her voice somehow clear despite the chaos around them. The blood ritual, the potential realized. The approaching Vraxel warriors hesitated, something in Lucas's appearance giving them pause. He felt rather than saw the change, his wounds sealing themselves, his muscles strengthening, his senses expanding beyond normal human parameters. The katana in his hand seemed to respond, the metal gleaming with the same purple luminescence that he now realized was emanating from his own skin, with speed that surprised even him. Lucas launched himself at the Vraxel squad. The katana moved like an extension of his will, cutting through energy weapons and armor alike. He was dimly aware of shouting, of alien voices raised in alarm or command, but they seemed distant, irrelevant. In moments, the squad lay disabled or retreating, their weapons destroyed, their threat neutralized. Lucas turned back to find Vial and Taruk staring at him with expressions that transcended species differences: shock, awe, perhaps fear. "What?" Lucas began, but his voice sounded strange to his own ears, resonant with harmonic overtones. "The Vailari blood ritual," Taruk said, his compound eyes fixed on Lucas's glowing form. "The legends were true." "Not now," Vail interrupted urgently. "The cascade failure continues. We must reach the control center." Reality reasserted itself in Lucas's mind. Whatever was happening to him, whatever strange power had manifested, it could wait. The station, and everyone aboard it, could not. They moved through the chaos of the station, Lucas leading with his newfound abilities, sensing threats before they appeared and neutralizing them with impossible speed and precision. Taruk provided directions, his knowledge of the station's layout proving invaluable despite his weakened condition. Vial monitored the cascade failure through her medical interface, tracking their diminishing window for intervention. The maintenance access was, as Taruk had described, a narrow passage barely large enough for the Zerk commander to navigate. They emerged into the central control hub to find it abandoned, the regular staff either evacuated or caught in the fighting elsewhere. Vial moved immediately to the main console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "The cascade has reached 80%. We have minutes at most." "Can you stop it?" Lucas asked, still struggling to control the strange energy coursing through him. The purple luminescence had dimmed somewhat but still emanated from his skin in pulsing waves. "Oh, possibly," Vial replied, not looking up from her work. "But the Vraxel installed fail-safes. Any attempt to interrupt the sequence triggers an immediate detonation." "There must be an override," Taruk insisted, joining her at the console despite his injuries. "There is," Vial confirmed grimly, "but it requires direct neural interface with the system core. A living mind must absorb and redirect the energy surge." She finally looked up, her expression resolute. "A Vailari mind. Our neural structure is uniquely suited to the task." Understanding dawned on Lucas. "You're saying someone has to sacrifice themselves." "I'm saying I do," Vial corrected. "It's why I'm here. Why I've always been here." Her luminescent patterns formed complex symbols that seemed to resonate with the purple energy surrounding Lucas. The bequeathed anticipated this moment generations ago. The blood ritual that connected our peoples was preparation for this convergence. "You speak in riddles, physician," Taruk growled, frustration evident in his voice. "There's no time to explain fully," Vial replied. She turned to Lucas, her expression softening. "The connection between us, between all Vailari and certain genetic lines of humans, it was established centuries ago through sacred rituals. A joining of bloodlines to create potential vessels for power beyond either species alone. The strange energy I'm experiencing," Lucas said, pieces falling into place. "The healing, the enhanced abilities, the manifestations of the connection," Vial confirmed. "Triggered by extreme emotional states in your case. Anger, but uncontrolled, unguided." She stepped closer, placing her hands on either side of his face. "I can help you direct it, use it to save everyone aboard this station, but the price is high." The control room's emergency lights flashed red, and an automated voice announced, "Cascade failure at 90%. Critical detonation imminent. Evacuation protocol initiated." "Whatever you're planning, do it quickly," Taruk urged, monitoring the countdown on the console. Vial's eyes locked with Lucas's. "I will channel the connection through myself into the system core, redirecting the cascade energy. You must maintain the link between us." Control the flow with your will. Your anger gave it form, now your compassion must give it purpose. Before Lucas could protest or question further, Vile pressed her forehead against his. The contact sent a shockwave of sensation through his body, intensifying the purple energy until it enveloped them both. Through the connection, he felt her consciousness, ancient knowledge, personal sacrifice, determined purpose. She stepped back, the purple energy forming a visible link between them. With a final look of determination, Vale placed her hands on the neural interface panel of the main console. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Purple energy coursed from Vile into the station's systems, visible as glowing conduits spreading throughout the control room and beyond. The countdown slowed, then stopped, hanging at 97% completion. Through the connection, Lucas felt Vile's pain as she absorbed the destructive energy of the cascade, channeling it through her consciousness into more stable patterns. He instinctively tried to share the burden, directing his own strange power to support her efforts. "It's working," Taruk reported, watching the station diagnostics with amazement. "The cascade is reversing." Vile's form began to fade, becoming translucent as more of her essence transferred into the station systems. Her voice echoed in Lucas's mind rather than his ears. "The connection must continue. You are the bridge now, between worlds and potentials." "Don't sacrifice yourself," Lucas urged, both aloud and through their link. "There must be another way. Not sacrifice transformation." Vale's physical form grew fainter still, but her presence in Lucas's mind strengthened. The bequeathed foresaw this moment. "My purpose completes the circle begun centuries ago." The purple energy pulsed one final time, blindingly bright, then stabilized into a steady glow throughout the station's systems. Where Vile had stood, only a lingering pattern of light remained, gradually fading into the restored normal operation of the control console. "A cascade failure averted," the automated system announced. "Station systems returning to normal parameters." Truk stared at the empty space where Vile had been, his alien features unreadable. "She saved us all," he said quietly. "A warrior's sacrifice, worthy of the highest honor." Lucas felt hollow. The connection severed, yet somehow still present an echo of Vale's consciousness lingering at the edges of his awareness. The purple energy had receded from his skin, but he could still feel it within, waiting. Potential unrealized but present. Before either of them could speak further, the control room door slid open. Chancellor Ely entered, flanked by Planetary Council security forces. Her expression shifted from urgent to confused as she took in the scene. Lucas standing unharmed despite his earlier wounds, Taruk wounded but alive, the console operating normally, and no sign of Vile. "The cascade failure has been stopped," she stated, looking between them questioningly. "How?" "Dr. Sorn interfaced directly with the system," Lucas explained, choosing his words carefully. "She redirected the energy, at the cost of her physical form," Taruk added. "A sacrifice that saved this station and everyone aboard it." Chancellor Ely absorbed this information with political poise, though her eyes betrayed genuine shock. "And the Vraxel insurgents? Neutralized in this sector," Lucas reported. "Though there may be others elsewhere on the station, our forces have contained the remaining pockets of resistance," Ely assured them. "The Zerk Confederation's main fleet arrived moments ago, apparently summoned by Commander Taruk before the combat began. As a precaution against exactly this scenario," Taruk's mandibles clicked. "I suspected the Vraxel might attempt interference. I did not anticipate the scale of their treachery." Ely's gaze settled on Lucas, noting the healed wounds, the lingering purple shimmer in his eyes. And the combat itself? It was interrupted before completion. A heavy silence fell over the control room. By tradition, an interrupted ritual combat was considered void, leaving the original dispute unresolved. The political implications for Earth, for the Zerk, for the entire sector hung in the balance. The combat was decided, Taruk declared unexpectedly. Before the interruption, I yield to the human champion. Shock registered on Ely's face. Commander, such a concession is mine to make, Taruk interrupted firmly. I was defeated fairly by a warrior of exceptional skill and honor. He turned to Lucas, one who then chose to aid his fallen opponent rather than leave him to his enemies. The combat code permits me to acknowledge such a victory. The implications were enormous. With Taruk's concession, Earth would gain not only the contested orbital rights but recognition as a legitimate power in the sector. The Zerk Confederation would lose face but preserve the sacred traditions that the Vraxel faction had sought to destroy. The Planetary Council acknowledges Commander Taruk's concession, Ely stated formally, adapting quickly to the unexpected development. Earth is recognized as the victor in the ritual combat for Cintria's orbit. Lucas felt no triumph at the announcement. Victory seemed hollow in the wake of Vial's sacrifice, the strange connection he now carried, and the unanswered questions about his own nature and future. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now, Chancellor Ely replied. You become more than a champion. Mr. Tran, you become a symbol Earth's re-emergence into galactic affairs, the defender who stopped a catastrophe, the human who defeated a Zerk commander in honorable combat. She studied him thoughtfully. The Planetary Council will offer you a position as Earth's formal representative. Your people need a voice in this sector, especially now. The prospect was daunting. Lucas had been a soldier, a fighter, not a diplomat or politician. Yet he sensed the truth in Ely's words. Earth needed representation, needed to emerge from isolation and legend into active participation in galactic affairs. And perhaps more importantly, he needed to understand the connection that Vial had awakened in him, the strange power that now lay dormant but present. The bridge between worlds and potential, as she had called it. I need time to consider, Lucas replied finally. Of course, Ely acknowledged. For now, there are more immediate matters to address: treating the wounded, repairing the station, investigating how the Vraxel infiltrated our security, as Chancellor Ely coordinated with her security team. Taruk approached Lucas privately. The Zerk commander moved stiffly, his injuries still severe despite emergency treatment. The Vailari physician spoke of a blood ritual, he said quietly. A connection between your species and hers, established generations ago. Lucas nodded. She didn't have time to explain fully. The Zerk have ancient records of such rituals. Taruk continued. Legends of power beyond individual species, accessed through emotional catalysts. The Vailari were known as keepers of such secrets. His compound eyes studied Lucas intently. What you did in the arena, the speed, the healing, the purple energy, it was not human, not entirely. I don't understand it myself, Lucas admitted. A few ever do, when they become vessels for power greater than themselves. Taruk's mandibles clicked softly. But know this, human. Such power always demands balance. The Vailari woman gave you a gift and a burden. How you carry it will determine much for all our peoples. With those cryptic words, Taruk rejoined his own delegation, leaving Lucas to contemplate a future far different from anything he had imagined when he'd awakened from his coma mere days ago. In the days that followed, the Cintria medical station gradually returned to normal operations. The damage from the Vraxel attack was repaired, The wounded treated, the dead honored according to their various cultural traditions. The Zerk Confederation formally disavowed the radical faction, and negotiations began for a more comprehensive peace agreement that would stabilize the entire sector. Lucas found himself at the center of it all, not as a combatant now, but as a diplomat, a symbol, a bridge between Earth and the wider galactic community. Chancellor Ely had been right about the position she offered. Earth needed representation, and Lucas's unique status made him the natural choice. But in quiet moments, when official duties allowed, he returned to the control room where Vile had sacrificed her physical form. There, where the connection had been strongest. He sometimes felt echoes of her presence, fragments of understanding about the power he now carried. The purple energy remained within him, dormant but accessible. Through meditation and practice, he learned to summon it in small measures, to direct it with purpose rather than emotion alone. The anger that had awakened it initially was still there, a part of him, a strength he would not deny but now balanced by compassion, by responsibility, by the weight of representing not just Earth but the potential for connection between all species. 1 month after the interrupted combat, Lucas stood in the observation dome of the station, watching the gas giant Cintria rotate slowly below. Its rings caught the light of its distant sun, casting delicate shadows across the cloud layers. "It's worth protecting," a voice said from behind him. "Worth the sacrifice." Lucas turned to find Chancellor Ely approaching, her formal robes exchanged for simpler attire. In the weeks of working together, they had developed a cautious respect, if not quite friendship. Vile thought so, Lucas agreed. The Vailari bequeathed have finally responded to our inquiries, Ely informed him. They wish to meet with you to explain the connection, the ritual, the purpose behind it all. Lucas felt a surge of anticipation. When? They're sending a delegation next week. Ely studied him thoughtfully. They seem to believe you represent something significant, a fulfillment of ancient preparations. They said. And what do you believe? Lucas asked. Ely considered the question carefully. I believe that power, any power, is defined by how it's used, not its origin. The energy you manifested saved this station. The connection you shared with Dr. Sorn prevented a catastrophe. She gestured toward the viewport, toward Cintria and the stars beyond. There are worse foundations for building a future. As she departed, Lucas returned his gaze to the vista before him. The anger that had defined him for so long remained, but transformed, no longer simply a weapon but a catalyst, a beginning rather than an end. Whatever the Vailari delegation would reveal, whatever path the strange connection would lead him down, he would face it not just as Earth's champion or the human who woke up angry, but as something new, a bridge between worlds, a vessel for potential, a guardian of balance in a galaxy where such things were increasingly rare. And somewhere, in the patterns of energy that flowed through the station's systems, in the purple light that occasionally shimmered at the edges of his vision, he sensed Vile's presence, not gone but transformed, just as she had said. Not a sacrifice but a transition, a continuation of a circle begun centuries before either of them existed. The human who woke up angry had found purpose beyond rage. The aliens who wanted a duel had received something far more significant, a glimpse of possibility, of connection, of potential that transcended individual species or conflicts. As the light of distant stars reached the observation dome, Lucas felt the purple energy stir within him, responsive to his thoughts, to his resolve. Whatever came next, he would meet it not with fear or simple anger, but with the clarity of purpose that came from understanding one's place in something larger than oneself. The duel was over. The real journey was just beginning.